Welcome, women. Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, celebrating courageous women who turn struggles into success. I'm your host, Nicole Ananda, and for the last 20 years as a certified life coach and a healing arts professional, I've supported women to live a life of passion, power, and purpose so that they can experience more love, joy, and success. If you're ready to ignite your life, subscribe to the Empowered Woman and become a part of our community, where excuses hold no power, resilience reigns, transformation happens, authentic power is created, and wise women like us lift each other up higher and higher. And today's guest is Maria. She is on a mission to help thousands of women and female entrepreneurs heal from the cycle of generational trauma and its sometimes hidden effects so they can unlock their true power and potential and finally be who they were always meant to be, an empowered, free, worthy woman who feels deeply deserving of all that she desires. I love that. Her deepest belief is that we all have the ability to turn our pain into power. And when we do, the deep subconscious healing, success, and abundance naturally follows. And that's why she's dedicated her life to being a trauma alchemist and using her unique 7-key framework, the Trauma Alchemy Code D.E.S.E.R.V.E, D.E.S.E.R.V.E. She frees women from childhood trauma and allows them to reclaim their self-worth, own their confidence, and alchemize their past into inner peace, success, and abundance so that they can thrive in business, life, and love. Her healing is often described as magical because it is accelerated and fast. It does not have to take years and years. It's based on her knowledge, her wisdom, and lived experience of her own conscious and subconscious healing, which she has artfully integrated into her work as a rapid transformational therapist, clinical hypnotherapist, breathwork facilitator, inner child healing specialist, trauma-sensitive heart math certified practitioner, international speaker, and published author. This meaningful cause is particularly close to Maria's heart. Having overcome fear, past trauma, and being stuck in visibility fears and imposter syndrome to heal and thrive in life and business, Maria truly understands what it takes to overcome trauma and limiting beliefs in order to heal, transform, and thrive. And she now wants to pave the way for other women to do the same by inspiring them to alchemize their past into success and abundance, therefore becoming a change maker in their family who sets the example of moving towards an empowered future for herself and the next generations to come, creating a significant ripple effect for change in the world. Maria works in international practice and speaks at podcasts and events in English and German. Maria is from Germany and currently lives in the United States with her 3 children and husband. Wow, 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 wow is all I have to say. I am so excited to have you here. And as I read all of this, I'm like, yes, we could talk on a million subjects because these are all the things I love to talk about too. So I'm excited to see where all of this goes. And to start, we're going to have you share a story, whatever story you decide, on how you became this courageous woman, how you turn some of your struggles into success, and then we'll move from there. So welcome to be here. So good to see you.
Thank you, Nicole, for this beautiful introduction and having me on your amazing podcast. I feel honored. Yeah, that's always the question, like, where do I start? I have overcome childhood trauma, severe childhood trauma myself, physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And I always knew already as a child that what I was going through, we were going through, that it was looking so amazing on the outside, but nobody could see what was going on in the inside, was how it was supposed to be. So I had this feeling, eventually I will come back to that and revisit all of this. And, when my mom once told me, like, I had some people in the family who had like mental health issues, and she said, "Oh, it runs in the family." I remember already, and it's so serendipitous now when I see where I'm at, that I was already at that age when I was 12, like standing there in my truth, saying, there must be a reason that he is feeling like that. Instead of giving him just pills, somebody needs to help him find why that is and where this comes from. So I was always interested in development and healing already at that age and getting to the bottom of things. And then in my 20s, when I was in my master program, like to become a master of education, that's when I was facing really the symptoms of my own childhood trauma. I couldn't sit still. I was overly perfectionistic. I was like extremely nervous and scared to speak and show up in exams or in lessons. It was so extreme that even though I had the best grades and everything was going really well, but it was all this internal stress. So I started talk therapy at that time, and it helped me get through all of it. Um, but I also felt that it has its limits. So I continued searching. I really was on this quest of healing and freeing myself from the shackles of my past, so to speak. And when I then, in my 30s, I was married and I had 3 little kids. When I noticed my marriage wasn't working, it wasn't feeling fulfilling, and I had done inner child work at that time. I really started following this inner calling of being true to what I feel and what is right for me and what feels authentic. And then I left that marriage, even though I really wanted this healthy, good, all together kind of family that I also had, but it was all fake in my childhood. I really wanted to give that to my kids, but I couldn't. And even though it felt like a failure in that moment, it also was following this path of authenticity, because it wasn't true, it wasn't healthy. So, and that at that time also, I felt this, there must be something more in life than, not that it's not fulfilling to be a mom, than being a mom of 3 kids and being an educator. There must be something more. And that's when I, as a teacher in the master program for student teachers, working with them to help them become good teachers, I noticed this soul calling. Wow, I need to work with people on a deeper level, because that program that couldn't help them, help heal their problems at the deeper level. And that's that's when I, for the first time, really felt this calling to bring all my own healing that I had already experienced at that time forward into a service to humanity, basically, or a service to the divine, as I feel it, honestly. And this soul calling, as I call it, was moving me forward through my life. No matter what I went through in my life, there was this marriage that didn't work out. And then I came to the US to follow my soul calling to become this inner child specialist. And then the group I was part of, it was also a spiritual group, that all collapsed and I broke completely down. But this soul calling always persisted. It, even after that, where like everything fell apart, I was like, wow, but this is still there. And everything I've learned it must have happened for a reason. And I had awakening events, my psychic gifts were activated, everything. But what I then noticed, I was still not daring to put myself out there. I'm like, how can this be that I did all this healing, so dedicated that people called me almost like a maniac, And still, even though I knew exactly where it came from, that I didn't dare to put myself out there. Why is this still there? Like there was still something missing in my own healing. And I also thought there must be something missing in my toolbox when I want to help other people. And I was guided through this whole journey, and it wasn't ever what I expected it to be, because it wasn't a straightforward, okay, I do this education and then I'm that, and then I do this education, and then I'm that. It wasn't at all. It was all divinely guided with divine timing. And when I found this, what I do today, and what I integrate everything I've learned before into the subconscious healing work, that's when everything popped. And I felt like, that's how everything ties together, and why I haven't gotten over my visibility fear fully yet is because there were these deep subconscious beliefs that were never touched with all the healing work that I did. I had healed a lot of pain, but not these beliefs. And once I did, it all changed. And now I can integrate everything into what I'm doing and what I've learned. So that's the story of how I got from back there to here in a
Yeah.
rougher, like in a rough
Yes. I
forward.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I mean, it's an amazing story. And I know that the women that watch this can really relate to what you said. You know, the beliefs are such a big component of why women stay stuck, right? Or even,
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah,
the patterns that we find ourselves in, no matter what we do, no matter how much, self-help books we read or meditate or affirmations or whatever we do, or therapy. There are these subconscious fears and blocks that are not addressed by this conscious work in a way that it's permanently shifting the pattern. All people that come to me have some form of pattern or somewhere where they feel like, something is still not shifting, no matter what I did.
yeah, yeah,
That's where the answer lies. And, we hold all of that in our bodies and in the subconscious. And when we shift that and access that, that's where everything can change. And yeah, it's ultimately for me, it's about uncovering what you also shared in the beginning, uncovering who we truly are, and that we are all, that's how I feel, divine beings made of love. And everything that's in the way of feeling the empowered to be who we are meant to be is just there to be healed and transformed, so that can be uncovered, so that we can see the diamond that we
the
actually
diamond.
are. Yeah, we are
Yes.
diamonds, like shiny,
I
sparkly
love the
diamonds.
diamond, sparkly diamond that's inside of us. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
exactly. It's buried under all these experiences and traumas and wounds and beliefs and all that. Yeah.
It's so interesting, when you talk about the beliefs, and I talk a lot about this with clients and women as well. And it's like, the common beliefs, maybe we can talk about this for the women who are listening. Like, well, I have, this belief. You mentioned imposter syndrome. There's the belief that I'm not good enough, right? There's so
Mhm.
many women that believe that they're not good enough, or
Yeah.
I don't deserve this XYZ, whatever it is. I'm not worthy of whatever that is. And I hear sometimes even things like I'm different, or
Mhm.
I believe that no one really understands me. Sometimes in the healing world, you probably get this one, like I'm the black sheep of the family.
Mhm.
Nobody really gets me. So, what are some of the ones that, yeah, that maybe that you find to be typical? Any other ones
Yeah,
yeah,
all of those that you just said, like it comes always down to that we in some way feel like we are not enough in the way we are, And therefore we must not belong. Therefore we must not be worthy. Therefore we must be different. And it's all tied to the experiences that we have as children in our upbringing. Either we grow up in trauma, like, what everybody would recognize as trauma, or we grow up with parents who loved us but couldn't give us the love in the way we would have needed it. And as children, because we are so dependent on our caregivers, like stemming still from tribal times, we need to belong to the group, otherwise we won't survive. So we are so dependent on our parents to live and to survive and to grow that we would never, as little children, at least up until 10 or so, or 8, 9, 10, we would never question them ever.
Right.
When we are not getting what we need, or there is some struggle in some way, we always think it must be our fault. There must be something wrong with me. I must be flawed or not enough in some way, that dad is not giving me a birthday present ever, or mom is not here for me when I need her, like, to bring up some like super simple
Yeah,
examples.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what it comes all down to. And it sounds so simple, these beliefs, everybody has them. But then the journey back to finding what's the root cause of it is the journey of healing that uncovers like the different flavors, what it means for everybody. It's slightly different for everybody, even though the belief, I'm not enough, everybody can relate to that. Or I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not beautiful enough, not educated enough, whatever it might be. But then the flavor of it and the circumstances this belief was developed in, and which experiences it is attached to, is what makes it unique, and also the journey of healing unique, because we attach these beliefs to the experiences we grow up in, to the traumatic or not traumatic, but for sure not satisfying or nurturing enough experiences that we would have needed as children. And then because we are alone in those experiences, we can't digest them fully, because there's no empathetic witness there to
Right.
hold that and feel that with us in that moment. We have to suppress it, and we attach these beliefs to it, and then there it is in the subconscious mind, and we are not aware of it until
Right.
life brings us the mirror and shows us, here, that's something that's not working. That's where you can look deeper, and that's where you are invited to heal.
Yes, I love how you explain that, and I couldn't agree more. I definitely use the same language with inner child work, and I also sometimes use reparenting as a phrase, with
Yeah.
people. And I think it's really powerful what you said, and I love that journey. And I also tell people I don't think anybody escapes trauma. I mean, to some degree, our whole society is really built around what I like to say is, scarcity consciousness or victimhood. So we all fall into these categories because the whole world and collective around us is also supporting the narratives of that as well. So it's really interesting because it's an individual experience, but it's also this collective experience and narrative that somehow we don't have power, or somehow we don't have what we need, or somehow we need that thing to make us feel better, that, pill to make us look younger, so it just is so pervasive in everything. And what would you say, with all the different types of modalities that you have, and I know you kind of weave them all together as I do, are there some that you came across that you just found were like so integral and so potent for you to get to some of these core beliefs and to help women or men or whoever you are working with to transform? I know you said like rapid, and I agree with that. Like, I think there are rapid ways versus needing to, let's say, sit on a couch for 10 years. I think that there are ways that we can get to those beliefs pretty quickly. What's your thoughts on that? like to hear.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I wanted to say, if I may,
Yeah,
something to you, what you said, that our societal context also supports this. And it, when you think about it, it's no surprise because we all go through our childhoods. We all have some unfulfilled needs that we carry around, and our inner children just act then with each other. So of course, as we as humans build the society, the society is a mirror of exactly that, right? So
exactly.
that's why I find that yeah, it's just natural. They couldn't be different
Mhm.
unless people start healing, and we change the world by changing one person at the time so they can find back to who they truly are, who they always were meant to be. So I find all modalities, or a lot of modalities, have their place. For me, for example, talk therapy was how I started. It helped with the symptoms for a bit, but it never healed at the root what was going on. But it brought me all the awareness of the system, of the family system, and the patriarchal structure of it, and all of this. So it had really its place. And what I find the most potent right now, and how I work on the conscious and the subconscious level with people, but the powerful change happens by accessing the subconscious mind. And the vehicle I use for that is hypnotherapy, basically. And then I bring the inner child into it, and I bring my divine connection and my psychic gifts into it, and that's where it all happens. That's where the transformation can be rapid, because you bypass all these other things. You get to the root directly. And I have, when I first found that, I was like, oh my gosh, I had all these judgments about it. And I was like, oh my God, how will that feel when I'm like in this trance? And then I'm like, I wasn't. It just felt like a natural, very relaxed state that like stops a little bit the mental chatter that's always there, and you have access to these deeper layers. And in the beginning, when I started this work, I was like afraid a little bit. Oh my God, what if it doesn't work? What if their subconscious mind doesn't want to do this, or so? But I am so fascinated by our subconscious minds, and so humbled almost by it, because I've not experienced once that a subconscious mind of a person who had the desire to heal and change wouldn't cooperate. I have never experienced that a subconscious mind brought up situations from the past as root cause that were too overwhelming or too much for the person to handle. And it's so amazing how it does what it does to help us find the answers in those sessions. Sometimes it brings a contrast situation when someone is completely lost in their trauma, and they are like feel like they are so broken. There's nothing healthy in them. It will bring up a situation where they had an experience where they felt happy in the moment. It took me a while like to really see why that was happening, because I asked for the root cause of the problem, the pattern that a client has. But then it would bring me that, and it was for the client to see, hey, you are not broken. None of us is broken. Parts of us may feel broken, but we all have everything already in us. It just needs to be uncovered. So I'm a total fan of the subconscious mind. And I'm like super, super thrilled how it works, and how quickly it works, and how easy it works. And I do believe that you have to have the right practitioner or therapist to do this. And I feel really capable of helping my clients, and people have mirrored that back to me. That's why I can now share that. I can really hold space for a lot what people have gone through in a really loving way, because I've gone through all of it myself, all of it. Like I have had so many life altering events where people would tell me like, how can you get up from this now? Um, but it's because I'm here to do this kind of work, and I had to collect a lot of experiences to draw from. So that's why um, I can relate to a lot of things. And I feel this subconscious, accessing the subconscious to get the root cause directly is really the most potent modality in combination with other things. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really couldn't agree again with you more because, I do also not hypnotherapy, but practices with guided imagery that is in the shamanic traditions, more neo-shamanic traditions. And what's interesting is it's similar in that the way that the drum beat is used for certain processes, it's used to entrain the mind. So
Exactly.
that repetitive entrainment is actually kind of like a hypnotherapeutic technique. I would call it a neo-shamanic hypnotherapeutic technique, I guess. And what happens is often, and if I pair this with Reiki or other things where they're already relaxed, like breath work, is they're very quick they're already relaxed, but quick to go into that place. And I find that the imagination also, so the combination of like what comes up through the subconscious, but also it's like this ability to imagine something has this really potent alchemy together. And it gives the client a very visceral, sensory experience, which can alter their memory of the past in a way where it can actually be healed because they can actually envision it in a different way and
Yeah.
then have that memory also. So, like, for example, like, let's say a cord cutting technique.
Hmm.
I love doing those where I have people, it's not just about cutting the cords and getting rid of someone. It's actually not about separation at all. It's actually pulling someone in their highest divine self and seeing that person that way. Like I'll even say with different eyes, with a glimmer in their eyes, with love radiating from their bodies. So you start to see that person in that light. And then when you talk to them, it's not so traumatic, it's not so rigid, it's not so scary or fearful. It's like a loving presence. And then when they can do that and then express, what is it that I didn't receive? What is it that I didn't get as a child? How would I have liked to have been loved or seen or what have you? Then they get to forgive and it sticks with them. It's very
Yeah.
sustainable. And I'm always like, wow. And then they'll say, I can't imagine the person any other way now. And so, it's like I guess what I'm trying to impart as I'm needing some water
Oh, me too. Hmm.
is that it's exciting the work that you do and that we can access that and give people these experiences to know that they can really change their past, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm doing really similar things. I do exactly that process that you just shared. I do that
Oh,
too.
fantastic.
And it's about um, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's like going back to those experiences and completing them in a healthy or loving or empowered way so that everybody, the client, can find and feel their power that they have today to go back and basically rescue their younger self from that situation, bring it into safety or whatever is needed, so it can change the memory so that they create a new memory without bypassing all those old feelings. I invite them also to come up and be there so they can be transformed. But that's where the power lies. And it goes all with imagery. I work a lot with imagery too. It's so powerful and it's so real. People would think, what is this? Yeah, but it works. It works. It's powerful.
Really does work. I'm so stoked. I'm like, I want to do some work with you and like have a little powwow together because it really is powerful. And to find another woman on this path with me that does this work is really exciting for me. I'm
Me too.
curious.
Yeah.
So I love that you have the Trauma Alchemy Code, and you say it's this unique key framework. Do you want to talk about what that is? Would that
Well,
be
I don't want to talk about that so much because
okay?
it's changing. My work is changing a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
It's not actually the trauma code anymore, I would say. I mean, it's the diamond code.
Oh,
I help clients activate that in them. I yesterday had such an experience of it. I had a healing session yesterday with a man actually, and in one of it was the second healing session, his second month of work together, and he asked me in the very beginning, Maria, I want to feel the divine. I can't feel it. I don't know how to access it. And he had gone through a lot of trauma and was also like a very successful man, but felt like he was overcoming with extreme grief, and all the past was coming up after his wife had died a year ago. And it's of course natural to grieve, but he felt like she, yeah, well, I don't want to say too much about that, but in
lost
the
his way.
session,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
in this session yesterday where, I felt like I was a vessel for the divine. And in that moment, and that's when the diamond code is activated. It got activated already in the first session because when he integrated his younger selves into his heart and felt this peace that came from that, he said suddenly, and it was like a confirmation of what my mentor had already told me is what I'm doing. I can't see that sometimes myself, what I'm helping really clients do, feel, do, and activate, because it's so natural to me. He said then, oh my God, Maria, I'm feeling like, and I had never talked about that with him. I feel like a diamond. I can't believe it, Maria. I'm filled with this diamond light right now. And, we put it into every corner and all of that in our imagery. And then yesterday in the healing session, there was a deeper layer of healing necessary. He still couldn't sleep. He had sleep issues his whole life, and severely since his wife passed a year ago. And it was, of course, also related to traumatic situations and the abandonment trauma. And so in his childhood, but once he allowed all these feelings to be there and then could integrate them, he came to this profound place of stillness. And I feel everything what my clients are going through. I feel it before they feel it. And I felt this place of stillness, this non-dual yin place, however you want to call it, where just love and stillness is present. I felt it, and it was like a whole field was activated. And I told him, do you feel that? And he felt it. And there it was, what he always wanted to feel. He could feel it because he had his emotions that opened this. I helped him activate it. His emotions, the suppressed emotions, were the doorway to the divine. And when this wave of extreme, like, or intense emotion is over and felt through, and it's actually not as bad as we think and always fear, that's when this place can be found. And that's when we can find who we really are, that we are love, that we are made of love. And he could feel that. So therefore, I would now use it as diamond code, and that's what I help activate by healing those layers of past wounds and shackles, trauma, however you want to call it, so that can be activated. And I can still feel it just talking about it. It's like,
Yeah, I have a very sensory experience with what you're saying also. Have you ever read the Sophia Code?
oh yes, I've been
Oh,
part of the Sophia
yeah.
Code.
Because they talk about the diamond light, right? The diamond
Oh,
light.
I have forgotten that. Oh my
Easier.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
And
my mentor told me that, Maria, you are actually helping people activate their diamond,
yeah.
their diamond light. I'm like, what is this? And then I Googled it and I'm like, oh, it's really a thing. And I completely forgot about the Sophia code. And
Yeah,
then
go back.
it's
It's in
there.
I believe it's in the Mother Mary section.
Oh, right. Oh, I have to
Mary.
reread it. Yeah.
It's either Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene. I feel like it might be Mother Mary, but your name is Maria, so there you go. Um, right? Got
Yes.
the Maria code.
Yeah, Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Jesus are actually part of my guide. They are my guides. And
They
so,
are my guides as well. That's no surprise.
no,
And
no
so that's like
surprise.
ultimate like version of light and love and joy and expansion. And it's just that's such a beautiful way that you described that whole story. And I think people can really get that sense of
Yeah.
working with the subconscious and working through that trauma and integrating. I like that you use that word. It's one of my favorite words too. Integrating everything in to that ultimate place of inner peace, that
Yeah,
ultimate place
exactly.
of inner love, which we all are made of. And we've forgotten who
Yeah,
we are.
we've
And look
just
at who
forgotten.
we are.
And we live in times where it all comes to the surface. And the people that are ready really to do the work, that can do the work in an accelerated way.
Yeah.
It's all the energies are supporting that, really. It's yeah, and when we are in this authentic beingness, let's say, of who we truly are, everything comes after that. Like everything unfolding, like how we want our lives to look like, success, abundance, love, everything. It all comes from that place and it unfolds naturally. Yes, of course, you have to take your steps. And so I don't want to neglect that, but it happens. And everything we want so much with our minds and worry about we will never get is only a coping mechanism, because we go with the mind instead of going deep on this subconscious, emotional, spiritual, whatever you want to say it, level. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find it all so fascinating and
I love
cool.
that you kind of brought it back to authenticity because I think that is so key. It's like we really have to get beneath all the shadow behaviors that we do in our lives to cope and get to that place. Do you have, as we're kind of wrapping up, do you have, let's say for the audience, a ritual or a practice that they might find is really helpful to start to connect to that place of that deep inner wisdom that you're talking about?
Yeah, I actually do. Um, what I've practiced for a long time and found so valuable to get me closer to that is, sitting every day, or lighting in my whatever meditation place at my altar or wherever I want to sit and feel I have space, and just start with slow by lighting a candle and just looking at this candle, having my journal right there, looking at this candle and just observing it, and noticing how the mind goes crazy by not having to do anything, and the mind goes crazy just observing all of this, observing this, doing that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then eventually noticing that it gets quieter. And then I ask myself the question, which part of me needs my love today?
Mm.
And that always brings up something, some feeling I didn't feel yesterday or whatever. And so then I just let that come up and be there for it. And because I've practiced so much inner child work, I then write with these parts. And then afterwards, and I just am open to whatever wants to come, whatever wants to come into my presence. And then afterwards, I just journal, this stream of consciousness kind of writing. I just journal. And sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Mary Magdalene, sometimes it's Jesus, sometimes it's my higher voice, higher self. Something comes out of it always that's valuable, that helps me. And I also always practice gratitude. That's another thing I really do regularly, not only saying these things that I'm grateful for, but actually feeling them, really feeling them. That was something that helped me through all my difficult life experiences. I always held on to gratitude, and there's always something to feel grateful for, even in the biggest challenge. For the bird that's sitting on the tree, just singing its song, and yeah, that also really elevates the frequency, because gratitude is a high frequency, and that allows everything else, to be more available, that's underneath the surface. Yeah, so these two practices are some practices I really love.
I love those practices. Thank you for sharing those. I'm sure everybody really appreciates that they got that practice from you.
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully they are, the attitude of gratitude, as I like to say. It is so powerful.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
So, so, so powerful. I love how you said it'll get you through anything. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
It really is that way. Sometimes on our path, we really are. And I remember that from myself. I was like desperate. Why is this happening? I have done already so much healing. Why is this still happening? I mean, it's all a long time ago now, and what I had to learn, one of my wounds was that I couldn't trust myself and didn't trust people, and therefore didn't trust the divine. So I really needed to emphasize and learn this trust again. And my whole journey is basically related to that. But in those moments when we feel like we don't know what the next step could be, where it looks so dark, gratitude, and then the process for me is always surrender to the divine in this prayer. And gratitude is part of that prayer, because there's always something to be grateful for. So that gives us the next moment, let's say, when it's so dark that we can't see anything, like this then gifts us the next moment. And that's how we can get through it. Because that's why I said it, because I actually have this experience
Mm.
that, yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful place to start to wrap up, and just wow. I mean, so many amazing things were shared today. I'm sure that there's a lot that people have learned through this process and through this chat today. It's really great. And I'm curious, as we're ending, if you'd like to share with the audience how they can reach out to you. Yes, we'll have the links in the description. Are there any things coming up that you'd like to speak to before we leave?
Yeah, well, I think you have all the links that you will share. I will have a group program that is around activating the diamond code ready in the fall. I'm working on it. I just did the first part of it with a little group of women, which was very beautiful. And I really love these group experiences as well. But in the meantime, I do one-to-one work. And if people are not ready for that yet and want to get to know me better, they can go to my website, where I have a free audio that rewires the subconscious mind to find more confidence. I also have a guide that can help them if they find themselves in self-sabotaging patterns, and the abundance alchemy guide. It's also a guide to abundance. So that gives them some ideas of how I work and how they can help themselves in the meantime. And of course, on my website, they can always find this link to book a free call with me, where we
Awesome.
just chat and see if this might be the right work for them.
Right. Awesome. Wow. Amazing. So, guides and all sorts of resources. It's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today and being so inspirational and just sharing your story of turning all sorts of trauma and hard challenges in life repeatedly over and over again into, the version of yourself that you are today, which is so bright and joyful and inspiring and of service and devoted. So thank you so much. It's been amazing to have you on the show. And I look forward to us getting together in person, live, not just over
Yes,
Zoom, sometime for tea, please.
yes, I feel the same way. Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. And thank you really for offering a platform for women to share their stories, to inspire others, that there's always a path to healing and becoming the empowered woman that we actually are meant to be. If you wouldn't do that, people wouldn't maybe know about it. So I thank you for bringing your work to the world and having this part of your service. And thank you for inviting me to your
I'm
podcast.
so grateful. It just, as a final note, when you said to the world, I this morning went into YouTube and I was checking the geographics of like who looks at these podcasts. And Russia actually came up high on my list. And I thought that's so fantastic. So we might be speaking to a bunch of Russian women. How
Yes.
cool is that?
And the core message is really the same for everybody, wherever we are, whatever nationality we have, because we are all human beings. We are all human divine beings. And that doesn't change no matter where we live, no matter how we grow up in what society. It's comes back to this core message. And that's why people everywhere are interested in this, because the core message is the same for everyone.
Absolutely, 100%. Thanks for bringing it
Yeah.
back to that also.
Yeah.
All right, Lev. Well, thank you so much. I just want to let everybody know again, if you are really inspired by these stories, please just subscribe to The Empowered Woman and hear all sorts of amazing, empowered, and inspirational women in the future. And we send you much love and much success. Mwah! Thank you so much for being here.